Yo, what's going on, guys? Today, in this video, I'm gonna be making another Scream 6. Just talking about the killer reveals and the motives in Scream 6. Kind of get more in depth with that. Um, and, because in my last video, of course, my last two videos actually, I did my spoiler reviews for Scream 6, part 1 and 2, and I talked about the reveals and the motives at the end of part 2. But I wanted to like kind of like get more into it again here, so that's what I'm gonna do. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Like and subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and we're just gonna dive right into it. So yeah, like I said, I just wanted to talk about the killer reveals in Scream 6, talk about the motives, talk about the characters, and how I felt about them overall. So I thought, the killer reveals for Scream 6 were great. I personally enjoyed it. And I thought it was good for me. And like I said, I did suspect Dermot Mulroney's character, Detective Bailey. I suspected him. But Ethan, I did not suspect him. Like, there was at times where I did get a little bit suspicious of Ethan, but not like it wasn't like overboard or anything. Like, it was like very subtle. Same thing with Quinn. I didn't really suspect her either, and I believed her fake out death. Because to me I actually believed it. It felt like more real to me. I actually thought she was dead. So yeah, I believed Quinn's fake out death. I did not see her coming. So yeah, but Detective Bailey, though, I saw him coming from a mile away. I knew he was the killer even before he was, even before I saw Scream 6. I just knew he was because I was just theorizing it before the movie came out, just talking about Dermot Mulroney's character, Detective Bailey, possibly being a killer, and he was. So yeah, I mean, but I thought, like I said, I enjoyed his character, and he probably, Dermot Mulroney's Detective Bailey, his character probably got the most screen time, between Ethan and Quinn, so he probably got the most screen time as a killer and as a character, I'm pretty sure. But I still enjoyed Ethan and Quinn. I still thought they were great. I do think maybe they did lack a little bit. Kind of like more so Ethan as than Quinn. I mean, Quinn also got not that much screen time, but I felt like Ethan, like he kind of just like he should have been a little bit more in the film at least, you know. And I'm not saying he should have been in the whole movie, like, and we need to know every little detail about him, because, I mean, if we're being honest, almost every, killer in this franchise, there's usually the mastermind and then the secondary partner, killer that is just tagging along. Usually they're the ones who get the less amount of screen time. It's been like that ever since Scream 2. Like, well, actually, in Scream 2, both killers didn't get as much screen time now that I think about it. Because, like, both Mrs. Loomis and Mickey, I'm pretty sure even now, they still have, like, the least amount of screen time, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, like Mrs. Loomis, she had very little screen time. And Scream 3, Roman, he wasn't in that movie that much either. Jill, she was the mastermind in Scream 4, but she had a lot of screen time. So we knew her character more. But Charlie, though, I mean, he was in it just like, he got decent amount of screen time, but he wasn't as memorable, at least to me, as a character. And yeah, and Scream, I felt like Scream 1 like was the movie, the original Scream, it like balanced the screen time between killers very well. Both Billy and Stu, And Billy, I'm pretty sure he got like 10 more minutes of screen time compared to Stu, but Stu was still in it quite a bit. Like Stu actually is almost near the screen time of Roman and Charlie, and you know, so and they weren't in it as much either. So pretty much Stu. But the reason why Stu felt like he was in it more than he actually was is just because he was like scattered throughout the film, and you know he was a great character too. He was really funny, and so he was memorable. But yeah, Stu and Billy got like a good amount of screen time. They both felt super memorable. But by the time we got to Scream 2, it started lacking. The killers started getting less screen time, and you know, even Scream 5, you know, Richie got a lot of screen time. Amber, not so much. So it's kind of the same thing here. Detective Bailey in Scream 6 gets quite a bit of screen time. Ethan and Quinn, not so much. And it makes more sense here, too, that the killers wouldn't get as much screen time. The secondary, you know, partner killers. Because, you know, it's 3 killers now. So, you know, it's kind of hard to balance every single killer's screen time. So I understand from that perspective. But, like, yeah, pretty much Detective Bailey probably, like, he got the most screen time, I'm pretty sure. So he was, like, in it the most. And the motives for Scream 6, I thought it was great. Like I said, I was talking about it in my spoiler review. I thought the motives were great. It was, you know, some fans, they didn't like it. You know, they felt like it was just a rip-off Scream 2 Mrs. Loomis motive. I thought there was more to it than just that. I thought, like Scream 6, at surface level, it may seem like it's just a plain ripoff of the Scream 2 Mrs. Loomis motive, but it's kind of not. Because they kind of go in the conspiracy angle that ties into the motive of, like, you know, they're trying to frame Sam. They're starting these rumors online about her being a killer, and she set up Richie and Amber. They talk about how they're trying to frame Sam and make her snap to become a killer, and you know that was kind of like their plan and whatnot, and it kind of ties into the motive and those ways, and for me it's a little bit different. The Scream 6 motive is a little bit different because of that. It's not entirely the same. And not just that, but then we have Detective Bailey kind of give a backstory on him and Richie and and whatnot, with him talking about how as a kid he let Richie like make his own little fan films, and he like had a collection of all this stab items and the props and some of the shrine stuff that we see. And Detective Bailey, he talks about how, like, he may have pushed Richie a little bit too much onto the stab stuff as a parent, and as a kid, to Richie. Like, Detective Bailey was kind of like acknowledging almost like his faults as a parent, and for pushing like the stab stuff a little bit too much on Richie. He and Mrs. Loomis didn't really do that. She didn't really acknowledge her faults, or she didn't really acknowledge her faults as a parent. She was kind of just like, no, Sydney, you're in the wrong. Detective Bailey kind of like acknowledged his wrongs and kind of gave a backstory about him and Richie's relationship. And, I thought that was great. And just seeing, Quinn and Ethan, their reactions to it, especially Quinn, because she would, she would get kind of upset whenever Sam was like, oh, Richie was just a man baby who let his girlfriend do all the killing, and he was a limp dick little fuck or something like that, and then Quinn is like, shut the fuck up, and then like Tara throws a brick at her, and yeah, like you can tell like Quinn was even affected by Richie's death, her brother. And I thought just seeing that kind of connection almost makes Richie's character a little bit more likable to me because of that. Because they gave a little bit more backstory to this stuff. Scream 2 with Mrs. Loomis didn't really do any of these things. Nor did they have this conspiracy angle with trying to frame like Sydney or something, and like trying to like make her look like a killer. That was never really done. And so I thought with Scream 6 they kind of took the motive. It may seem the same as Scream 2 at face value, but it's not. I felt like to me it was a little bit different. Honestly, it was a little bit executed differently and better to me than Scream 2, in my opinion, for me. And I know some fans will probably, I'm not saying anyone was watching this specifically, but I know for a fact there's some fans out there, like if you say stuff like this, they'll, some fans will be like, oh, you're just, having recency bias, and you're just, going off of hype and saying these things just because it's a new film and whatnot. So you're just being, you just have recency bias. That's basically what some fans try to say to almost discredit your opinions. They try to like just say that you have recency bias, which makes no sense to me, because that's like me saying, oh, if you like Scream 1, 2, and 3, that means you have nostalgia bias. Like it just makes no sense. Like, if you like Scream 1, 2, and 3 more than Scream 4, 5, and 6, the more like newer Scream movies, especially Scream 5 and 6, like that's your opinion. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, you just have nostalgia bias, So there's no need to just try to like tell someone, oh, they have recency bias because they like something better than an older film that they thought was executed better. There's no need to say that. I don't think that's necessary. Like, yes, there's some fans who do have recency bias with some stuff, and just with really anything with movies in general. Like some fans, yeah, they could have recency bias, but it's not okay to just like randomly say that out of nowhere and just assume that just someone has recency bias because they have a different opinion than you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of my whole thing there. I just thought Scream 6's motive was just executed better, a little bit better than Scream 2's motive. And I just thought that the family dynamic with Detective Bailey and his kids, which was great. The backstory and just the conspiracy angle and trying to frame Sam, trying to make her snap and become a killer, trying to, basically kind of like tie that social commentary of like conspiracy theories and rumors into the motive. Having the Detective Bailey be a detective, that's never been done either, nor have we ever gotten 3 killers either, or a family duo of killers. I mean, that in itself is different. And I'm not saying you have to like it just because of that, but I'm just saying for me, because of these different executed stuff that was done in Scream 6, that's why I really like it. I like the killer reveals and the motives and just everything, but having to do with it. I know some fans, they don't like the third act, and they don't like the killer reveals or the motives. I'm seeing quite a bit of fans, just that's their main issues. Like they hate the third act, they hate the motives and the killer reveals and all that, which is understandable. Like if that's your opinion, that's fine. But me personally, I enjoyed the killer reveals, the third act, and the motives. I thought all of that was great. And that's just how I feel. And yeah, I think that's just where I'm at with that. And I felt like Scream 6, there was there of course there was moments, like, cuz like Detective Bailey, he was kind of like, it's like some fans, they don't really like his character or his acting, cuz they felt like he was kind of like Dermot Mulroney was a bad actor, or they thought Detective Bailey as a character wasn't written good, but I thought he was great, me personally. In the end, though, I do think the third act was a little bit rushed after the killer reveals, like, and all that. The third act was a little bit rushed. Like, I will admit that. Like, definitely. Like, the third act was a little bit rushed for sure. Um, I think that, you know, I felt like they honestly they could have probably added like 10 more minutes to this film to kind of like make the pacing of the third act more steady, in my opinion. They could have done that, and so, but either way though, I liked just everything about the killer reveals, the third act, the motives and the backstory, and just all of that stuff. I thought it was great to me. And of course, there's some fans that, specifically with Ethan, they felt like he was just not in the film enough, and he just wasn't an interesting character. Which, like I said, that's all subjective. That's all opinion wise. Because there's many killers, like I said, in this franchise that have not gotten that much screen time. Like I said, ever since the first Scream movie, almost every single killer after that has not been developed as well. The first killers, Billy and Stu, were so memorable, and just their screen time was executed very perfectly. After that, though, with Scream 2 and onwards, like, there's always at least one killer or even two that is just doesn't get as much screen time as the mastermind or the main killer behind everything. Usually the one that's doing the most killing gets the least screen time, because that's just how it kind of is. And with Scream 6 too, like, there's three killers, so it's kind of hard to develop all these killers perfectly. Like, I mean, they could, like I said, they could have probably maybe added a few more minutes to this film and maybe tried to develop the killers a little better, but I'm not going to complain about it so heavily, because just like I said, this has always been a thing at this point. Like, there's always been killers that have not gotten that much screen time in this franchise. Like, this is nothing new, and that's why it doesn't bother me as much that Ethan and Quinn were not in it as much. So yeah, me personally, I don't really care. Like, Detective Bailey, he got a decent amount of screen time, but like, it's kind of hard to develop three killers, like, and as including the core four, including Gail and Kirby, like, and then the newer characters. Like, it's kind of hard to do all that, and that was kind of the territory that they were headed in, and I kind of figured that would end up being the case. Like, I knew someone was not going to be developed in Scream 6, because, like, that's just how it is. There's always a few characters or even a killer that doesn't get as much screen time. So I knew that would happen with Scream 6. I'm not really surprised by that, because this has happened, like I said, with almost every single previous Scream movie at this point. And and I kind of want to go with a little bit of a who killed who in Scream 6 now. Kind of talk about that. So I'm gonna go a little bit on a Zach Cherry moment here. Zach Cherry 2.0. Talk about who I think killed who specifically. In my opinion, well, at least some specific kills. I'm not gonna go through every kill, but at least some of the kills. I'm gonna talk about who I think did it. And because when it comes to the opening scene, because, like, we have Samara Weaving, like, obviously Jason, and he's the one that killed Samara Weaving, but what's it called? Jason and Greg, they get killed off in the opening scene after Jason kills Samara Weaving, which the opening scene, like I said, was just really good at Scream 6. But yeah, it was kind of, this pretty much, I felt like Detective Bailey killed Jason and Greg in the apartment. I think it was Detective Bailey who did that. And yeah, Henry Czerny, I think Detective Bailey did that as well. I feel like he had to have did that. I don't know. And then because he grabbed like these papers too right after he killed him. Yeah, I think Detective Bailey killed Henry Czerny's character, Dr. Christopher Stone. Um, who else? I'm trying to think, cause um, cause this scene right here with Gail, who attacked Gail? I think Quinn did it, but just because um, I'm pretty sure um like Detective Bailey and Ethan weren't they I'm pretty sure they were nowhere around whenever this scene happens with Gail. Quinn just I'm pretty sure she just showed up here and she's the one who attacks Gail. So I think Quinn is the one who does this. Um this specifically, which I know some fans are, because I talked about in my last video, in my spoiler review, the first one, my part 1 spoiler review for Scream 6. I talked about it, how in this scene right here with Gail, like some fans are like, oh, like no way this was Quinn, like this, it makes no sense, like how would she do this, like she literally lifted up a grown man, Gail's boyfriend Brooks, and threw him through the window like it's nothing, and that just makes no sense. Look, I really don't care, in my opinion. Like I really don't care. Which honestly I could be wrong, but I do think this was Quinn. And if it was Quinn who did, throw Gail's boyfriend through the window, I mean it is what it is. I really don't care. I know some fans that it's hard for them to suspend disbelief sometimes. But me personally, it doesn't bother me. And, because this has always kind of been a thing in this franchise at this point. I mean, it's nothing new. So, yeah. And plus, I find it kind of strange, too, which I briefly talked about in my first spoiler review for Scream 6, like how some fans only ever call things unrealistic with the Ghostface killer whenever it's a female Ghostface killer. I find that kind of strange. Why, whenever it's a female Ghostface killer, all of a sudden some of these fans have a problem? They have an issue and they're like, oh no, this is unrealistic. Why is that? Because I don't know. I find that kind of strange. And, yeah, I mean, like, I really don't care. Like, she threw her boyfriend through the windows, like, whatever to me. But her attacking Gil, like that was not unrealistic. If Quinn did that, I don't think that's unrealistic. I mean, it was an intense chase scene, first of all. That was great. But I was kind of scared for Gil just for a moment. I was like, is she gonna die? Is she gonna die? And yeah, I felt like I was a little bit scared for Gil. I was like, shoot, is she gonna die here? But yeah, and but obviously Gail didn't die, and she survived that. But yeah, I think Quinn, she's the one who attacked Gail there, and Gail surviving, like I said, it's not unrealistic, and Mindy surviving wasn't unrealistic to me or Kirby. The only one who I thought was a little bit of a stretch for surviving in Scream 6 was Chad. That I will admit, I do think that him surviving was a little bit of a stretch, but it's whatever. But Gail, nah, she it's not unrealistic. She wasn't stabbed like super super heavily or brutally, or intensely, and so I believe she could have survived what she did. But yeah, I think Quinn did this. The bodega, where Ghostface walks in and he like stabs that random guy in the line, who's standing in the line, and he stabs him, and then the bodega owner pulls out the shotgun and tries to shoot Ghostface. Who do I think Ghostface, what killer is the Ghostface here? I think Detective Bailey, just because of how, I don't know, he it seems like he's the one who's very smart with the weapon. So I think he's the one who did that here. This right here, specifically. I want to talk about because first of all, who do I think killed Quinn's boyfriend? I'm pretty sure his name was Paul. I don't even remember what his name was. Um, but Quinn's boyfriend who dies in the bathtub, when they're gonna, hook up and whatnot. I think Ethan killed him. I feel like either Ethan or Detective Bailey, but I feel like that was Ethan, and I do think it's Ethan who ends up fake killing Quinn, and then then that's whenever Ghostface barges in and throws Quinn's supposed dead body onto Annika, and you know, and then what's it called? And then Ethan, I feel like he's the one who attacks Annika here, and ends up, he's the one that's gutting her and then he throws her off the ladder, or he makes her fall off the ladder. I think he's the one who does that. He's the one who gets this Annika kill, which I have seen. Which I'm gonna say the YouTuber Fate Decided. He's been saying that he doesn't think that Ethan killed anyone. He doesn't think Ethan killed anybody. He just got 0 kills. I find that kind of hard to believe because I just don't really see that being the case. I think Ethan killed at least one character in this movie, and I think it was Annika. If it's not anything else, I think he killed Annika for sure. I feel like he like that's just I feel like and he got this kill. Because I don't like Detective Bailey randomly showed up out of nowhere afterwards when Ghostface disappeared, and I feel like that was just an alibi. Like I feel like that was all planned out for Ethan to kill Annika, and then Detective Bailey comes here and he to stall and make himself look innocent. Like, oh, what happened? After the whole situation happened, and he of course he switches Quinn's dead body with another one, and that whole thing. So I feel like Ethan was the one who killed Annika, which I know Fate Decided doesn't think so. He thinks Ethan got no kills at all. I think if anything, bro, he got at least 1 kill. Which I could be wrong, but I feel like he had to have gotten 1 kill. I don't think there's been one killer in this franchise who hasn't at least gotten 1 kill. And even some fans try to claim that Richie got no kills in Scream 5. Bro, I don't, how would he have not gotten any kills? It makes no sense. He definitely, I think, if anything, Richie killed Wes. And he killed that security guard at the hospital who we see off screen. He gets an off screen kill and his throat is slit at the hospital with Tara. Vince, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of debatable with that. I mean, I saw Zach Cherries who killed who in Scream 5, and he said Richie's the one who killed Vince. But then again, it could have been Amber. I mean, I don't know. I mean, either way, that's whatever. But I do think Amber, in general, she got most of the kills in Scream 5. But Richie, to say he didn't get any kills in Scream 5, he's bro, he at least, if anything, got at least 1 kill. You can't say he got no kills at all. I have a hard time believing that. I don't believe that at all. And it's the same thing here with Ethan. I think, Ethan, I felt like he killed Annika, and in my opinion, so yeah, so pretty much that's kind of my whole thing there, and then what's it called? The one who attacked Quinn, the one who attacked Mindy, in the subway, I do think that was Quinn, and Chad obviously was the one who attacked Chad was both Quinn and Ethan. They were both teaming on him, and and then what is it called? I'm pretty sure those are the specific kills I wanted to talk about on who I think killed who. Honestly, I forgot who all the characters. I don't know if those were even all the characters that died in this movie. I'm sure there's more, but I probably just forgot. But I just wanted to talk about those specific kills. Like I do think that these were the killers that did those specific kills. I think Detective Bailey did the opening scene kills, and then he killed Henry Czerny's character, and then Detective Bailey was in the bodega and killed the store owner and that other random guy, and then Ethan killed Annika and her Quinn's little hookup boyfriend in the bathtub, and then Quinn, she killed what's it called? Gail's new boyfriend, Brooks, who she threw through the window. Which, like I said, I know some fans they have an issue with that, but it's whatever to me. But yeah, those specific kills, those are the ones I think were in those. Like these are the killers I think were involved in those specific scenes that I just said right now. So yeah, I kind of did a little bit of Zach Cherry who killed who, but I'm not professional with this, so I don't know. you know, I'm not all deep into who killed who's. Like I'm not a professional with that, and I've even seen some other YouTubers that I watched, like they posted who killed who's. And yeah, I might do a more deep dive who killed who for Scream 6 when I rewatch it, but for now this is just what I think. And yeah, I think overall Scream 6, the killer reveals, like I said, they were great. The motives, just going back to that, and the killer reveals and the motives, and just the backstory to everything with Richie. I thought all of that was great. It was all great to me, and just yeah, that what they call it, like hold on, my bad guys. I don't know what happened, but yeah, see, I think that's basically my whole opinion on all that. Like the motive, I thought it was just great. Like it gave more of a backstory to Richie, and it made me like him a little bit more, honestly. Because like in Scream 5, I liked Richie as a character, but as a killer, he was like like whatever. But now, Scream 6 made me like Richie a little more. Like his seeing his family go after him and their plans, and the way they kind of explain Richie's backstory a little bit. I like it, and just the conspiracy angle with blaming Sam, starting those rumors that she's a killer, and all that stuff was just great to me. And just like that whole commentary, that social commentary on just conspiracy theories, and trying to get Sam to snap. Like they tried to make Sam turn out to be a killer because they wanted to frame her. So I thought all that was just interesting, those angles. And yeah, that's why I like the Scream 6 motive, the killer reveals, all that was just great to me. And overall, I thought it was this movie was just a fun time. It really was. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I know there's some fans who hated Scream 6 or are probably in the middle with it, and that's fine. I mean, like, opinions are opinions, but I have seen some fans who have, just hated Scream 6 just simply because of just little things they don't like about it, And to me, it's like, I get it. Sometimes for you personally, if you have an issue with something, with the film, with anything in general, with any film, sometimes it's hard to look past things you don't like in a film, and it could make you hate it. But sometimes I try not to do that. I try not to just be negative and just hate on a film just because of. My bad, guys. But yeah, sometimes I try not to just like hate on a film just because of something I don't like. Like just, any film in general. Like I don't, because I don't want to do that. Like I just don't really see, I just don't, I don't want to just completely hate on the film just because, oh, I hated this in it specifically. Oh, I hated that. Like, I'm like, yeah, Scream 6, that we're talking about here, it has some issues, sure. Like for me personally, the things I didn't really like was um, just like the meta commentary was kind of like whatever to me in this film. And yeah, it was toned down for sure, but it was like kind of like, like whatever. And then certain characters having plot armor, like Chad, for example, like they should have killed him off. I agree with that. Um, Even though I like Chad, but they should have killed him off. And the third act was a little bit fast paced. They should have took some time with that. But overall, I thought Scream 6 was good. I thought it was a great film. It's just because I have a few issues with it doesn't mean, oh, like I have to hate the film now. Like I thought Scream 6 was a fantastic film. It tried a lot of new things. And some fans they try to say like, oh, but the motive was the same as Scream 2. And that's their reasoning for not for to try to discredit for how new and fresh Scream 6 really was. It's just by saying, oh, but the motive was the same as Scream 2. But like, even if you don't like the motive, like you can't discredit how brand new and fresh Scream 6 actually was, but the things that they did. And like Scream 6 was honestly a big step up compared to Scream 5 because Scream 6 had better character development, better chase scenes. Well, it actually had chase scenes for one too. And just better kills, better setting because it's in New York. Just to name a few things, but like, the movie was definitely new and different for me. Like, however you feel about the motive and, whatever, but like, you can't deny that the movie it definitely tried new concepts. I mean, even the opening scene itself, like, we've never seen that been done before. Like, with Jason taking off the mask and then he gets killed by the real Ghostface killer. Like, that's never been done before. We've never had a detective be a killer either. We've never had family duo killers. If you look at the new things that this film really tried doing, it's really great. And like I said, you may have a problem with the motive being the same as Scream 2. But if you look past that, though, it's the new things are just great. And I just think that's why I enjoy Scream 6 a lot. And Scream 1 through 3 literally all had revenge motives. Like literally. They all had revenge motives. Scream 2 with like, I want to just talk about Mickey specifically. He had the whole like wanting to blame the movie stuff. So it was different than Mrs. Loomis' motive. But Scream 1 through 3 overall had the same revenge motives and their plots with the stories. And Mickey in Scream 2, he kind of had his own objective. Like, he wanted to do his own thing. Like, he wanted to blame the movies and kind of get famous off of that. And just because he was crazy in general. That was kind of Mickey's motive. But it was a little bit similar to Scream 4 because even like Scream 4, like Jill was kind of trying to get she was trying to get famous. And Mickey was kind of trying to do the same thing too. And Mickey was recording the killings. In Scream 4, the killers are recording the killings. In Scream 1 through 3, like I said, the main killers all had revenge motives. In Scream 5, they have another involvement with the stab movies, which like almost every movie in this franchise has something to do with stab. So and even though it was different with the toxic fandom stuff, but all these motives are similar in some ways, most of them. And so yeah, that's why whenever I see some fans that are just saying it's a plain ripoff of Scream 2's motive. I don't know. Like I get it. Like for some fans, if they have their own issues with it, you know, specifically. But some fans were just saying that it's a straight up just clone of Scream 2's motive, but it's like they forget that Scream 1 through 3, you know, all had revenge motives, and Scream 2 and 4's motives were similar, with, you know, the recording the killings and the whole fame thing, and then Scream 5, you know, with the whole, because even Scream 5, the killers were kind of blaming the movies as well, kind of like Mickey was in Scream 2. Like Richie and Amber were kind of blaming the movies for their actions and why they did what they did. It was more so revolving, of course, around toxic fandom, but it was still similar to Mickey's motive. So yeah, I mean, like almost every motive in this franchise it's similar in some capacity, and like there's really no denying that, you know. So that's kind of my whole thing. There was, you know, even now with Scream 6, like yes, it is similar to the Scream 2 motive, but it's executed a little bit differently because of some of these other things that I said in this video already, with the whole, you know, conspiracy angle and trying to frame Sam and giving more backstory on Richie with Detective Bailey and his family and whatnot. Like, it was executed a little bit more differently. It's not at face value. Yes, it is a Scream 2 motive, but it's more than just that. And that's almost how every motive is in this franchise. It's a little bit different than the other, but just in its own way, it's still different. That's how it is. So yeah, and you know, that's just kind of my whole thing there. So to kind of like, you know, talk about that too. Like, some fans were also just trying to say, like, because I've seen some fans contradict themselves as well, like I've said before, in my last video with the part 2 spoiler review. At the end of that video, I even talked about it. I was like, some fans have contradicted themselves, and I'm gonna say it again here at the end of this video before I end it. Some fans have contradicted themselves because they've said in Scream 5, some of these fans were hating on Scream 5's motive for not being a revenge motive, specifically not being a revenge or personal motive, just like all the others. Even though Scream 4's wasn't, like, it was personal, but it wasn't a revenge motive. It was more so to do with fame. So I mean, that kind of thing that doesn't really make sense. But yeah, like, some fans were hating on Scream 5's motive for not being a revenge motive. And then Scream 6 goes back to the revenge motive, and then these same fans hate on Scream 6's motive for being a revenge motive. So it's like what do you want then? You know? And I'm not, like I said, I'm not aiming that towards, you know, like, I'm not trying to put like, if you specifically didn't really like the Scream 6 motive, I'm not putting you in that category, but I'm just saying, like, there has been fans that have contradicted themselves who have said that they wanted a revenge motive in Scream 5. So that's why they didn't like the Scream 5 motive. But then Scream 6 goes back to the revenge motive, and they still hate the Scream 6 motive for having a revenge motive. So there's the contradiction, you know? So that's kind of my whole thing. It's just some of these fans have what they're saying. But yeah, like I said, Scream 6 overall, I enjoyed it. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. And yeah, everything that I had to say was here. And yeah, like and subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. You know, I'm probably gonna upload another one tomorrow, but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. Have a good weekend, and yeah, stay safe. Bye.